Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. Last night, I got a chance to see the season premiere of Naked and Afraid Last One Standing Season 3. And I must say that there were a lot of good things that I saw. But there was one glaring issue that I had with the episode, and it's how the episode ended. I'll get into that in a little bit, but over the course of this review, I'll go over the highlights for the episode, as well as how I feel about them, and I'll also talk about the new teams that were formed by the end of the episode. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. The first highlight that I want to talk about is the very first challenge for the episode. In this challenge, the survivalists have to use stones to start a fire. After starting the fire, they have to create a raft to transport the fire to a pyre in the middle of a body of water. After the pyre is lit, the survivalists then have to swim back ashore and grab a scroll. Just like in Season 2, the men and women are competing separately for the first challenge. And I think that this is because the showrunners want the teams to have an even amount of men and women until the challenge starts to get very competitive. But there's one change from Season 2. The top 2 men and women who finish the challenge the fastest get to choose from getting a bow and arrow or a fishing asset. In this stage of the game, getting the fishing asset is a no-brainer, because the ponds and rivers are stocked with fish. Hunting big game animals is always ideal, but some Naked and Afraid locations are better for hunting than others. In Season 1 of Last One Standing, several people had bows and arrows, but nobody ever got to get the big game animal. While in Season 2, several survivalists got the big game animals with the bow and arrow, but that also came several weeks into the challenge. But another kicker in the first challenge is that the 2 men and women who finished last have to compete against each other in an elimination challenge. And this is a much needed change, because in Season 2, the last man and woman who completed the first challenge were eliminated immediately. And with this change, it gives the bottom survivalists a chance at redemption. So for this episode, I like the idea of the change, but the execution was pretty bad. With that being said, I would like to get to my only criticism for the episode, which was the ending. In this first challenge, Trish, Kayla C, Matt, and Trent all came in last, and they had to compete in head-to-head challenges to determine who stays and who goes. But before we could physically see how the elimination challenge went, the episode ends in a cliffhanger. However, we don't really need to see the conclusion of the elimination challenge, because the previews in the beginning of the episode already showed that Trish and Matt had survived the elimination challenge, and they were competing in other challenges throughout the season. So it was a bit of a spoiler, and if I were in charge of the editing for the episode, I would have shortened these previews and the survivalist introductions from the beginning of the episode, because that was about 10 minutes. I would have then shown the conclusion of the elimination challenge, and I would have resisted any effort to spoil who survived the challenge before it happened. But getting into the actual challenge, when the men competed, Patrick and Jamie finished first. I wasn't surprised that Patrick finished first, because I believe that he will make it to the finale in the season of the show. I was surprised that Jamie finished second. Not that Jamie is a bad survivalist, but I thought that Max or even Darren would have had a better chance of finishing second. The show is setting up a potential rivalry between Patrick and Jamie, and I must say, while Jeff is not officially part of this season of the show, Patrick is definitely bringing Jeff's energy to the show, which makes it very entertaining to watch. So after Patrick and Jamie finish the challenge, Max finishes third and Darren finishes fourth, which leaves Matt, Jermaine, and Trent, aka the 3 blind mice, left in the challenge. Matt actually was the third person to get his fire going in the challenge, but he struggled to transfer the fire to the pyre, which meant that he had to start all over. Matt also suffered 3rd-degree burns during the challenge, and unless I knew that I was going to win the challenge for sure, I would have tapped out right then and there on general principle, because getting an infection or worse is not worth it. Jermaine struggled with his fire, but once he finally got the fire going, he had the smallest fire, which he carried on the smallest raft to his pyre. By the time he made it to his pyre, he only had 1 hot coal, and he had to blow on that coal for what seemed to be an eternity until the pyre got lit. Trent had a very impressive fire once he got it going, but by then, it was too little, too late. On the women's side, things were a little less chaotic. Kayla H was the first to finish the challenge, and Laura was finishing second. I was very impressed with how Laura rallied from behind and almost secured a win for the challenge. With Kayla winning, she chose to get the fishing asset, and Laura chose the bow and arrow. As previously stated, in my opinion, the fishing asset is the best tool to have in the beginning stages of the challenge, but once all the fish are gone, the bow and arrow will come in clutch when a huge protein score is needed during the last leg of the challenge. Suzanne finishes third, and to my surprise, Cheney finishes fourth. Kai came in fifth, and in this episode, Kai tried to downplay her struggles with the challenge, but I also believe that she didn't have a sense of urgency to come in first, because the show is a marathon and it is not a sprint. Once the challenge had completed, we learned about the new teams and the new rules. The new teams for the first leg of the challenge are Patrick, Cheney, and Jermaine, Kayla H, Darren, and Kai, and then we have two two-person teams, in Max and Laura, as well as Jamie and Suzanne. But they won't be two two-person teams for very long. The winner of the men's elimination challenge will be joining Max and Laura, while the winner of the women's elimination challenge will join Jamie and Suzanne. Because the show already spoiled who won the elimination challenges, we know that Matt will join Max and Laura, and Trish will join Jamie and Suzanne. We also learned that sharing assets with other teams is forbidden, but they can be traded with the other teams. The rules didn't say anything about sharing food or stealing from each other, and in my opinion, these are two loopholes that I think some survivalists will use to either give or take away advantages from other groups. But I get it. This adds to the entertainment value of the show. So here are my thoughts on the new teams, and I'll share them in order of which I think are the strongest to the weakest. In my opinion, the strongest team is Kayla H, Kai, and Darren. When you factor in the fact that Kai and Darren have already competed in Last One Standing, and Kayla's determinations and skills as a survivalist, I don't foresee anybody in this team getting eliminated anytime soon. It's also worth mentioning that Kayla has the fishing asset, which she used to score a big fish for the team to eat. The next best team would have to be Laura, Max, and who I believe will be Matt. Sure, Matt has nursing an injury, but Laura and Max are a dynamic duo, and I think that Matt will try to pull his weight once he makes a full recovery. The next team is truly a wild card, and it's Patrick, Cheney, and Jermaine. Patrick is definitely the real deal, so I don't have any concerns for him. He currently has a bow and arrow as part of his earned item, but I don't think that he will be killing any big game animals in the first stretch. Now, I had my concerns about Cheney going into the season, but from the looks of the previews, Cheney was celebrating some early success in an elimination challenge or a cash challenge. But the jury is still out on Jermaine. He is definitely a seasoned survivalist, but for him to make it far in Last One Standing, he's going to have to treat it as a competition and work on his strategy, because it's by sheer luck that he wasn't part of the crew that got eliminated. And to me, the weakest team is going to be Jamie, Suzanne, and who I believe will be Trish. I think as individual survivalists, Jamie, Suzanne, and Trish are rock stars, but Jamie's decision to play mind games with his own teammates of all people will surely backfire. It's not a matter of if, but when. Suzanne might fall for Jamie's game, but Trish is pretty smart, and when she finds out the BS that Jamie has been feeding Suzanne, Trish is going to sniff it out quicker than a drug dog at Willie Nelson's house. And these psychological games may have an impact on how these individuals operate as a team. Jamie does have a fishing asset, and he has used it to score a fish for the team, but I strongly believe that somebody from this team will be getting eliminated before the second leg of the show. As I stated in my predictions video, coming into this experience, I had a feeling that Kai would be winning it all for several reasons. This season of the show is being held in Australia. Kai is from Australia. Kai has already competed in Last One Standing, and she was one of the finalists. There aren't really any survival challenges that Kai would flat out fail to complete in a timely manner. And after watching this episode, I still believe that Kai is the favorite to win. Her knowledge of the outcome, coupled with her being on a very strong team very early on, leads me to believe that Kai will be playing it safe for the time being, and when it's time for Kai to kick her competitive mode into high gear, she will leave everyone else in the dust. But overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give the season premiere a solid 6.5. As stated previously, I like the changes to this season, and I feel that the concept of the show has truly evolved into something much greater than anybody could have imagined after watching season 1. But again, I had to deduct several points for the spoilers that were shared prior to the first elimination challenge, and because the episode ended in a cliffhanger. But this marks the end of my review, and I would like to know what you all think about the episode. Feel free to leave all comments below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.